And now it's just a matter of sort of carefully wiggling it into place. What's up, Speedy's Garage gang? Welcome back to the Speedy's Garage YouTube channel. It's finally reassembly day on Project 4Runner back here. Last time we had the flares painted and restored, so they're ready to go back on the truck. And I had to get some special parts I'm going to show you in order to get this done. I decided to also put some clear protective film back on the location where it came from the factory, back there on that fender flare that was right here on the back door. A lot of debris can come, I guess, from the front wheels, and it tends to hit the side of that flare since it sticks out. The stuff I found is, I believe, an upgrade over what would have come from the factory, 21, 22 years ago. And I'm going to put it, if I have enough material, which I think I will, I'm going to put it in a couple of other strategic places to also protect them as well. And I think with this new stuff, it's going to be almost invisible. Obviously, you're going to need some special clips and things, and you can get them from the dealer, but they're very expensive. I was actually shocked how expensive some of this stuff was. Luckily, I was able to find most of the clips online. The ones I found online were probably, I don't know, 40 cents a piece or something like that, maybe 80 cents a piece. The ones I couldn't find online that I had to get from the dealer had a list price. You ready for this? This little guy right here, $12. Highway robbery. Even the parts department guy couldn't believe it. However, I'm set up as a shop with them, so my cost was $3. So you might look into that if you're going to be doing a lot of work on one of these like I did. I knew I was going to be buying a lot of parts, and I went down and basically just talked to the parts department manager and said, hey man, can I get set up with you guys? And I think it's like a wholesale price or something like that. I'm not exactly sure how it works, but it makes a huge difference. So I'm going to show you all the pieces I've got to get this done and just a couple of small tools we're going to need. And if you're not caught up on everything I've done to this 4Runner, I'll leave a link to the playlist at the top. It's called Restoring a 20-Year-Old 4Runner, 3rd Gen 4Runner. And I have done everything I could think of. If you are caught up and you think I missed something, leave me a comment and let me know. But we started off with timing belt, water pump, and everything that went with that, all the associated pulleys and seals and belts, drive belts. Then I moved on to, also did the radiator hoses, thermostat. Then we moved on to the rear axle seals, new rear wheel bearings. All the fluids have been changed, new rear brakes. Let's see what else. New interior, a complete detail, flares painted, I mean, new tires. So I can't think of anything I have missed, but if you think I did, leave me a comment and let me know. Now for these parts you're going to need if you decide to work on these flares. The first thing are these red and blue clips. Make sure you take a photograph or make notes of where the red ones go and where the blue ones go, because they are different sizes. So you want to pay attention to that. I will leave a link in the description of where to get these, a whole pack of like 40 of each for, as of this video, about 12 bucks. So I got those online, link in the description. The ones I could not find online are Toyota part number 90249-06132. You need 8 of these, 4 for each side, and these go on the very back fender flare. Mine all broke the little head off of them when I removed the flares. These are the ones that were sort of expensive. They were about $12 was the list price at Toyota, which is crazy for one little clip, and you need 8 of those. Here's what the reds and the blues look like compared to the original factory. This is new. This is the factory one that came off the truck. All of the little tabs broke. So I tried to save them, but they're 22 years old. Here's what the red ones, whoops, here's what the red ones look like. And as you can see, you always want to compare your new parts. They look identical. So I think these are going to work just fine. Then you're going to need what are called flare pads, and they're different part numbers. Well, I shouldn't say that. The front flares, the front wheel arch flares, are this part number right here, 53853-35090. And I believe the B1 might be your paint code. You notice these are silver that match my truck. So they are body color, so you will need to pay attention to that. These are long, obviously, because that whole front wheel arch is a pretty big piece. All the rest of them, every other flare on the truck gets this part number, 75659-35040. I'm not sure how long they are. I'm assuming some are going to be longer than you need and you just trim it, but that's the 2 part numbers. Every other one of them had that same part number. Rivets. You could probably go back with some kind of screw, a little black-headed screw, and that might be the easier way to go, but my OCD gets triggered, so I actually ordered And I got these online. Again, I'll leave a link in the description of where to get these. But they're Toyota part number 90269-04047. I think I got a pack of 25 for 10 bucks, so not too terrible. The only thing I'm looking at is that is an awful long rivet to just hold a flare in place. So I might have to modify these. And if I start feeling like it's not doing right, and I'll test a couple in my rivet gun to see how they're gonna do, I might pop the rivet part out and then take my Dremel and cut this off a little bit shorter. I don't know that I need that much material to pull down for the rivet. But anyway, those are the factory ones. You notice they are painted black. This is the clear protective film that I got. It's called Armor Up. I'll leave a link in the description to this. It did come with a nice little squeegee. There's other brands. I've not used this before. We're gonna see how it does, but it was 3 inches by 5 feet, so that should give me plenty. A few 10mm wrenches. I'm gonna need a sharp knife and some scissors, tape measure, and that's all for this stuff. Baby shampoo and distilled water. This is crystal clear film, so you want to be really careful what you use to put it on, or you might see specks. And this is going to be kind of like a lubricant spray, similar to how when we did the vinyl graphic. We'll spray it on the clear protective film, spray it on the flare, that way we can move it around while we get it set. And it's basically 1 to like 500, I'm going to say, mix. It was like 15 ounces of water and like 1 milliliter of baby shampoo. So just a little bitty bit in there, and you just kind of swirl it around. That gives you lubricity. I've got my assortment of pins in case some of these, like for the back mudguard, they didn't do too well. There's some in here that will fit and look factory, so I'm going to go with that. The special tool you're going to need is a rivet gun if you decide to use rivets like I am. I'll leave a link in the description of that. And then a heat gun also to help with this clear protective film. So that's really about it. Oh, and some rubbing alcohol, and that's to wipe down the edge of the flare before you put your flare pads on. So that's really about everything you're going to need. I'm hoping these don't fight me too much, but let's get after it. The first thing I'm going to do is get the protective film installed on the parts I want to put it on so that it can be drying and setting up while I'm working on the rest. And I took some notes and pictures of where the original factory protective film was, and it lined up with a body line. So what I did, mounted the flare on the vehicle temporarily, made a mark, that black mark up there, so I would know how big of a piece I needed. I got that cut, and then the factory had a little bend in it, so I went ahead and replicated that. Pay attention to which side you're on, and I found a 27mm socket worked well. Just set it on the paper and then cut it with a razor blade. So now we need to get this installed on that. Here is the finished product. I don't even know if you can even see it on camera, maybe just barely. But hopefully you can see the edge there. What I did is lined up the back edge with the edge of the flare. You notice it does line up with my black mark that I made, so it matches the body line. And then I had it come just around the edge of that curve so that all this is protected, and I came all the way down. And when you're working with this stuff, try not to touch it where it's going to be on the flare. I actually, you can kind of push on it and lock it when you have it in place, and then anywhere I was going to pull on it, I had like extra, about a ½ inch hanging off here, and that's what I used to sort of stretch it around that three-dimensional shape. And then a little bit of heat gun to get it around that corner, and then I used the razor to just trim off the excess. So that is ready for the flare pad. And this stuff is a lot like vinyl, so when you squeegee out your little water bubbles, you don't have to get all of them. I got almost all of them, any big ones for sure, but if there's some little ones left over, you're better off just to leave it a couple of days, and they will eventually evaporate out from underneath of the protective film. What you don't want to do is start fighting with one and have it cause a crease in your film. So if you end up with a couple that are left, just leave them, they'll dry out. And I gave this front piece, this is the part that goes down below the front bumper. It's kind of hanging out there pretty exposed. I gave it the same clear protective film treatment as that back quarter panel or door piece. This was a little bit more difficult. This is a pretty complex shape, so you got it curving this way and this way. So I had to use a heat gun around, kind of around the bottom. And remember, you only want to touch where you're tugging because you don't want to leave fingerprints. You'll see them in the clear film. And then, like I said, just a little bit of razor blade to trim off the excess. And now that one's good to go too. Now that I got the protective film installed, that was kind of a pain in the butt if I'm honest, but it's finished. I'm going to start being sort of strategic about how I'm going to put these flares back on. I'm going to start with the front and put the little wings. They were pretty dinged up, so I had those painted too. I'm going to get that done. And then I think it's going to be best to do the front fender right here first, and then the little nose piece on the end here second, and then move my way to the back. So that's how I'm going to get it done. When installing the grill, I find it easiest to put the little clips into the grill itself and then snap it into place. I'm going to get the flare prepared for the flare pad by wiping it down with that rubbing alcohol on the edge here where that flare pad will go. That'll help it stick a little better, I think. And this one's the most awkward because it's so big. Now we're going to put the flare pad on, and since this piece is so big, it's a little bit awkward. I'm going to start at the very front, so the top side, and work my way down. And the way this is, it's just a little, it's got a little sticky back to it. I'm going to start by just peeling off a little section of it so I can get it started. And I'm going to get it right up against this little tab. Start setting it in place. And I kind of played around with this, and it felt like doing it this way with it facing me was easier to get it set in place. You don't want a gap or anything between this pad and the flare. And now I'm going to put the pins in, and I referenced my picture I took, and you want to pay attention to how these go in. So they go in, the flat sides are facing up and down, and your connectors that snap into the body are up and down. And it is red, blue, red, and blue. And now it's just a matter of sort of carefully wiggling it into place. Remember, you don't want to break these tabs off the back, so you are going to have to kind of hold your mouth right to get this in here. And next, just put the 10mm bolts in place. You don't want to over tighten them, just get them snug. Next up is this, what I call the nose piece. And I did go ahead and put the flare pad on here. Pay attention to this one because it does sort of roll up inside the flare there. That's how I set mine up. And then this was one where the pad was actually longer than the flare, so I just kind of cut it off even with the bottom. You're not really going to be able to see a lot of this because these are just little 10mm nuts, 4 of them that go on the back side. So I'm just going to get this on here. The nose piece is on. I couldn't show you the bolts because they're hidden, but a little stubby ratchet and a ratcheting flat wrench got it done. I've got the flare for the door prepared. You do have to trim, obviously, the flare pad, and if you're picky like me, pay attention to the ends. I cut them at just a slight angle so that it fit flush on the tab. And then your pins are red, red, blue, plus some pain in the butt rivets. There's 3 rivets on this, so we're gonna have to deal with that. But for now, I'm just gonna snap this into place. Now we'll get to the rivets. I think these rivets are too tall, so I'm going to disassemble it. And this is a, what is it, an 8mm deep well socket. And put the rivet on that. I'm going to bang the post out. And now I can trim this rivet because I think it's too long. And I've just got some pipe cutters. I think these will probably work fine. Let's see, about right there, I'm going to say. Now reassemble the rivet. New and improved. This rivet gun has kind of been a pain in the butt, at least with several of the rivets I've used. Sometimes it works great, sometimes it doesn't want to break the post off. So we're going to see how much luck I have. But all you do is put the rivet in here. So I'll show you that. Let's see. I got it pretty tight. So it has an adjustment in the back for tension. Slide the rivet in, you get the right size nose piece. Slide the rivet in, and you want to keep the tool flat to whatever it is you're putting the rivet in. And if it doesn't break on the first go, pull the tool back all the way. Yeah, see, this wants to be a pain. All right, it worked. So that's what you want to have happen. It breaks off the rivet. Now we move on to the other 2. So there's the 3 rivets in place. And I must have not had it adjusted right before because I got it adjusted right tonight apparently because all 3 did just fine. We've still got 2 rivets left on this last quarter panel piece, so we'll get to it next. It's rinse and repeat for the rear quarter panel. Same deal with the flare pad. Now this flare pad is made to size, so the pad is made for this size flare. So you may want to sort of stretch it a little bit to make sure it fits, and if you have a little bit left over like I did, just cut it off at an angle. And then these pins just slide in to the tabs. And it just snaps into place. Like that. And then we got 2 rivets we got to put in the bottom. There's a problem I've been having. It broke off the stem at the back. So I'm going to have to snip that off with some wire cutters. And finally, bolt the rear mudguard on with the 3 10mm bolts. And finally, the 2 push pins. Well, there it is, finished up. Now I just have to do the same thing on the driver's side. And boom goes the dynamite. There it is, totally finished. And man, what a difference it made. Remember how beat up these were? Looked terrible. Now they look good as new. And this new paint protection film, I don't even think you can see it. I mean, I have to walk by, and I lined it up with, this is the body line right here that I lined it up with. Did the same thing on the other side. New coat of paint on that. Lined it up with the body line. Yeah, everything's looking real good. So not technically difficult, you just have to take your time, and it is a little bit time consuming because it's 22-year-old pieces that you're working with. You want to be careful not to cause any damage or anything like that. That's looking really, really good, and that's a wrap really on the restoration of this 2002 3rd Gen 4Runner. And I hope you followed along with the series. If not, be sure to check out the playlist because we did everything. All the maintenance, timing belt, valve cover gaskets, painted the valve covers wrinkle red while we had them off. New radiator hoses, coolant flush, all the fluids have been changed. Got the exterior done, polished, ceramic coated, flares painted, look like new. Interior, which I love, definitely updated, a little bit more modern and sporty, which kind of fits the character of the 4Runner better. I'm loving the heated seats now that it's turning a little bit cooler. And one last thing I think I'm gonna do is convert these chrome emblems to black. I'll probably use Plasti Dip, but there's a million videos on how to do that, so I'm not gonna bore y'all with that. And that's really a wrap on this project. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. Be sure to check out that playlist on all the other stuff we have done to this 4Runner. Please check us out on Instagram. It's at Speedies_garage, as well as the website, www.speediesgarage.net. And hopefully, I'll see you out there.